today we are going to be talking about two Apple events.
Apple does a great job.
They know how to put on an event and they know how to make things exciting, even when they're not super exciting.
So watching this was so funny because I was like, oh, I didn't know my phone could do like all these different things. They did talk about like the new camera a lot.
It is exciting that these photos are so much more usable. Between the two events, there must have been 2 or 3 dozen people that talked. They were all very well spoken and makes you want to go spend $1,000 on a new phone. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Frustrated by Your Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Jim D'Amico, and I'm joined by my co-host, Madison McQuistion. And today we are going to be talking about two Apple events that took place this year. One just a couple days ago on September 12th, sort of the iPhone release event, an Apple Watch release event. And then we went back and also watched the June 5th Worldwide Developer Conference that they had a couple months ago. So we're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about what they said and also, more importantly, how they said it. Because, Apple is really great at marketing. They're one of the best companies. I would actually say that they're more of a marketing company than they are a tech company.
True. They are so good at marketing. It's crazy.
With how they run their business. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to give our thoughts again on the events themselves and also, the product and operating system releases that they had as we go through it. So I forced Madison, I don't know if she's ever watched one of these before, to watch
I have not.
3+ hours of these for the last couple of days. What'd you think?
I actually really liked it. I think one of the things that I found fascinating is I get bored very, very easily, especially with like lectures, videos like that. But Apple does a great job of switching people between all of their segments, which I really liked. So they don't, ramble on for a long period of time. They get straight to the point. They show you all the good stuff. They show you examples. And it's very fascinating, I think. One thing I do really love is their intro videos. Yeah. Those are super
They're
fun.
Excellent. The quality of them. I mean, a lot of these actually, so you'll now see this, a lot of those are the commercials that will run, in different segments. So they record these and create these commercials. And then, this changed over the last couple of years after, all the, social distancing and so on. So prior to that, these were all in-person events and they would have an audience. For the Worldwide Developer Conference, it was developers, and I'm actually not sure who showed up for the product event once, maybe just special guests and maybe also developers. But they always did that. Essentially this is their best audience, and this was their way to tell them what was going on. It was a showcase for them, and then the public could also watch. And since then, it's now become more for the public. They obviously don't have nothing was in person here. Clearly, it was all pre-recorded.
Which that's what I was expecting when we had originally talked about it, because I know you said it was originally a conference, and so that's what I was expecting. And then I realized it. Obviously, these last two weren't.
Yeah, but I love it. And again, a lot of these commercials, they're the production quality. Apple's obviously known for maybe the most famous commercial of all time, the 1984 commercial during the Super Bowl. And these didn't disappoint either. They pulled the heartstrings. The sort of intro commercial to the event this week started out with a bunch of happy birthdays, and I thought they were going to go that route, that Apple's there for all of your celebrations. And then halfway through the commercial, it took sort of a left turn and pointed out that these birthdays were celebrated because of the health app on the iPhone and the Apple Watch, and all of these people, because of different software, their lives were saved, whether it was heart rate or I think one person passed out when they were driving and it alerted paramedics and things like that. One person, again, heart rate, she had to go into early labor and saved her child. So like they really pulled at the heartstrings on that one, and they're great at that.
Especially because that one's quite a bit different from the one from June, which was, I absolutely loved that one too, though. The guy chasing the bubble.
Right. Yeah.
All the little idea bubbles.
Yeah, a little weird, but I liked it. I mean, they don't pull back on these. They put everything into them. And so those are and there were a couple of little mini commercials, product commercials throughout. And then the production value just of the events themselves are amazing. They have these sweet drone shots coming in. They, someone will hold up an iPhone or an iPad and you'll kind of zoom into that, and then the room opens up. The special effects are pretty.
Obviously, everything's really high quality.
Right. right? I don't think that these are all filmed on iPhone. Otherwise, they would say it. They usually point that out. So that's always interesting that they do bring in full crews. They're not there yet. Because every once in a while, they will point out, we filmed this whole thing on the iPhone, but I don't think that these were. But they're great. And they know how to put on an event, and they know how to make things exciting, even when they're not super exciting. And that's, one of the great things about Apple. These are all the changes we'll go over. They're all incremental changes. Nothing is dramatic anymore like they used to be. It's all like, 10% better, 25% better instead of, changing the whole industry. But they have a really good technique to make everything seem like it is going to change the whole world. But they're really not anymore. They're just sort of incrementally moving in that direction, which is, I guess, how a lot of tech is these days, except for AI, which is obviously changing the world right now.
Yeah.
We had to get AI in there. My personal favorite line was Tim Cook, the CEO, said this, let's get a closer look at the iPhone 15 Pro, the most pro iPhone we've ever created, which is like such an Apple, like, it means nothing. And they'll...
Because all the ones before that were pro too, technically.
Right. No, I know. And so they'll say these things. It's the most pro phone we've ever done. Or this is of course it's going to be the fastest iPhone ever because it's the next model. So they're really good at wordsmithing that and making things seem more exciting than they are. Which is why they're such a good marketing company. They're design, I would say if you had to put an order of why they're successful, it's marketing first, design second, and then tech. Because all of this tech is out there. It's not like the iPhone is that different than Samsung anymore. They're essentially the same thing. Their package is a little different. Some people like one, some people like another, but they're kind of the same. But Apple's so good at marketing and making those like rabid fans, and this is one of the ways they do it. There's other ways too, but.
Yeah, they're good about showing you what you're missing out on. Because I think for my age, I am very technologically not advanced. Obviously, that's not the right word because I'm not technologically advanced, but I have a lot of like difficulties. I like the simple things. And so watching this was so funny because I was like, oh, I didn't know my phone could do like all these different things. And I do. One of my favorite things, though, I think with the new one, at least from the June event, was check-in for text.
Right. So this is where I have a list of my favorites, and that's not on there just because I feel like that's going to become an annoying like to-do list item for me. But it is nice. So that's the whole like when the person leaves, like call me when you get home. And now you can set that up and it'll happen automatically, except when it doesn't work. And but it is a nice gesture, and I could see that being something that we all get used to, and it'll get better. And
I was thinking more for parents because I remember when I was in high school, my parents would be like, "Text me when you get to your friend's house. Text me when you get here." And obviously, I forgot a lot of the time, and so I think that could be a huge game changer for parents when they're trying to decide like what kind of phone they want to get their kids, because obviously. If you have your kid walking home from school and different things like that, it'll be easier for a parent to keep track of where their kid is at. I mean, obviously, there's a ton of apps for tracking nowadays, but I do think that's going to be a very important thing for parents going forward, too.
And it basically takes the work out of it because now you don't have to check it manually. It'll tell you, like, okay, it's all set. I don't have to worry about this anymore. Madison got there. Unless she had someone else drive her phone there, she arrived safely and we're good to go. So you don't have to check. And that's one of the things they are really good at is they're usually slower to the market, but they really think through those types of things. How do we make this a little more seamless? How do we make things a little bit easier in our life? And that's part of their marketing. Like their marketing is the all-in-one device or devices that make your life better, make you healthier, make you feel better, make you more efficient, make you more productive. That's what they're always working for, which is awesome. So you're not techie. Were you like turned off by? I mean, so half of the event is just great marketing, and the other half is like a bunch of stats that I don't really pay attention to either, like nits, which is how bright something is.
Yep.
I just learned that yesterday, and a bunch of CPU numbers, and everything is 10 or 25 or 35% faster or bigger or stronger or whatever. Like they always.
Or there's a million apps that Apple has that I'm still haven't even touched probably half the apps on my phone. And so they were going through, at least from the June event, they were going through so many different like Apple apps.
Right.
And showing what they do and how they're changing and the new perks of them. And I haven't even used most of those.
I haven't watched all of these over the years, but I've watched a ton of them. And that's usually why I watch it, is to see like what are the things I can use, because in every iOS update. So that's the other thing. So the event that just happened a couple of days ago was to announce the new iPhone lineup and new Apple Watch lineup. And the one in June is to announce the new operating system for, all of their portable devices and also the Mac. And I'll watch these events to see the things that they don't talk about, because they have hundreds and hundreds of updates in every iOS version, and they talk about 10. And there are other ones that you can find out, so some you can find out here, and then I'll also research articles just to see, because some of them they might think aren't that great, but they're very useful to me. So that's what I'll do. And I love that. That's why I watch it. Aside from the fact that I'm just inspired and excited about the marketing part of it, because they're really good at it. And there are people that hate Apple. I know a couple of them.
Yeah. I was going to say Michael hates Apple.
Right.
He was talking about, I was listening to one of the videos when he was downstairs, and he was like, Samsung's already done that. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right. And again, I said that before, but that's true. Apple they were first, and now they're always last. And sometimes the better companies, Canon is that way with cameras, they can't afford something to break. Where Samsung, they just need to beat Apple. Apple needs, their customer base doesn't accept anything but perfection. That's their marketing, right? It's perfect. So they can't release it 2 years ago when Samsung did all that, because it wasn't going to be perfect. So they wait and wait and wait. And then they're always, now they're often last to the market. But then you listen to these events, and if you're part of their sort of their culture, it sounds like they're first, because they're the best. And so that's how they do it. And that's another, great example of their marketing for sure.
I think that's the other thing too, is, you have your Samsung fans and your Apple fans. I think once you start with one, it's hard to switch to something else. Because I think it was a couple of years ago, I had switched to Samsung and realized I hated it because I was so used to Apple. And then obviously I went back.
Yeah. So I've always had an iPhone, and I've always had a PC, and I'm comfortable there right now. And it's because it's what I'm comfortable with. I also, don't think either one are better or worse. And I also chose that because most of the people that we work with have that makeup. Like most of our clients have iPhones and PCs. And so it's easier for me to help them and work with them that way. And that's the other reason I chose that. But I could see myself going Apples someday for Mac, for a computer, but I'm not there yet.
My writing computer is the M2, which they actually talked about in the June event, and I absolutely love it.
So you do like that. Okay.
Except I haven't used all the perks on it. Literally, I've only opened Microsoft Word and my Gmail account. I have not even messed around with anything. I haven't even touched the background.
Okay.
Just opened those two things for now. And I mean, eventually I'll do more on it, but I haven't needed to, because I also have, my Surface that I use for work, and I use that more often anyways. So
right. Yeah, I crave the all one ecosystem that they talk about, where like you can send things from your phone to your computer. Like I can't do that. Like, and having messaging on your computer and just having them all talk to each other would be amazing. But other than that, I have no real motivation to switch. But someday I might want it just for that reason, because that would be amazing to be able to have everything all be the same instead of.
I know, I need to mess around with that. And the other reason I got it too is like there's a writing software that I need that you can only get through Mac, and I absolutely love that software. Okay. But yeah, I thought the M2 was really cool. It was fun listening to them talk about that, because I'm like, I need to mess around with my MacBook more.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they're not great. They're just not for me. They are amazing.
Yep.
For sure. Okay, so let's talk about what our favorite things were. So actually before that, let's quickly talk about the carbon neutral thing. So this was so aside from all the marketing, their commercials and stuff, they did this massive segment in the event this week about the Apple Watch becoming carbon neutral. And they did what I thought was sort of a silly bit with Mother Nature coming in and sitting in a boardroom. What do you think about all of that? Do you remember that segment?
You want to know what's funny is I actually kind of skimmed that part.
So what?
Because I was like, what's going on?
It was silly, and you're probably better off for skimming it. So anyways, the Apple Watch is now carbon neutral, meaning that they're either using all recycled products or offsetting it with, other planting trees and, other ways. And they picked that one because it's the smallest, I'm sure. But they did a silly sort of boardroom event thing where Mother Nature comes in and sits down and is like, berating them that they're not going to be able to do it, and then they wow her because they're actually accomplishing it. And it was, so my takeaway from that was it was probably the weakest part of it. I get why they wanted to make it a big deal, but they're not bad actors. That was the part that surprised me the most, because it was set up kind of like a skit, and Tim Cook was in it, and all the other execs that were talking throughout were in it, and they didn't do that bad. So I guess that would be my thought on that is they probably could have let that go or done it a little differently. So take that for what it is. Okay, so let's talk about the features you're excited about. So you talked a little bit about one of yours. What are your other features that you think are the best?
I was trying to think of ones that I would use. So the only other one I kind of wrote down was like just dropping stickers in text. Because it's also funny because we have so many family group chats, and most of the time I don't even read them. So I'll have a little notification on my phone that says you have 40 messages, and I'm terrible at responding to people, also terrible. And so when I do sometimes, family chats can get super fun. So I did like the fact that you could just like drop stickers on certain people's text now. I thought that was a fun feature.
Yeah, they always have a few fun features. And in there, so I'm also really bad. I have a couple group chats that really do blow up, and I won't look at them for a day or two, and there'll be 100 messages. And they have a new kind of scroll to top, like scroll to where you've last seen.
Yes, that was cool
which is nice. I thought that was a nice addition. I didn't have it on my list, but I do remember that, and I thought that was really cool. My iOS item that I'm the most excited about is live voicemail. So if somebody calls you, it'll pop up on your phone as they're leaving a voicemail, and it'll start typing what they're saying. Then you have the option to like quickly get into that call if it's important, which would be great. So that would help me, because I either screen a call because I don't know who it's from. I get a lot of random calls from, if we get a new business call, it's a random number and I have no idea who they are. And then if I could see like, hey, it's John and we're opening a new restaurant, we'd love to talk to you, I could jump in and say like, hey, John, how's it going? Instead of me having to call him back later. So that would be really nice.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I think on that note too, the other one I saw was if people voice message you, it'll transcribe it now, which is super helpful, because I have a couple of girlfriends that if we're talking about something through text and it's too long for them to text, they'll send like a 5-minute voice message.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so like I'll either have to like sit there and listen to it. And so the fact that I saw that you can now, it'll like transcribe it, I think is super cool.
That is great.
It'll be easier to like just read it.
Right. Absolutely. That's annoying that they do that. And that's great that that's fixed. Yeah.
I mean, it's like funny because it kind of makes sense, I guess. But then I'm also like, we could just call each other.
Right. That's a phone call. That's a phone call. We always forget about that. And and then, so this wasn't mentioned in the events, but it is coming out in the new iOS, is podcasts are getting a facelift. So supposedly you're going to be able to find content easier. They didn't really say how in what I read, but the way it's displayed will be a little bit more modern, and they are going to bring the episode specific artwork to Apple, which was not on there. It was currently on Spotify. So we update our artwork for every episode, and on Apple you only see the main cover photo for the podcast. In this now going forward, as of I think it's next week, you'll be able to see all of those, which is really, really nice. So I like that one.
I'm kind of surprised that wasn't a thing already, honestly. I don't use Apple Podcasts because obviously I have a subscription to Spotify, but I'm kind of surprised that wasn't a thing already.
It's weird. They started podcasts. They invented it. Came from the iPod, I believe. And they kind of forgot about it. So now they're giving it a little more attention, which is nice. And Spotify's been aggressively going after the podcast market they pulled back a little recently, but they're sort of winning the thing that Apple started. So who knows? Maybe Apple will come back and start trying to do more in that space, which I think would be great because a lot of people do subscribe that way. And I'd like it to be a better experience. I'd like to be able to be, the search to be a little bit easier so people can find our show and I can find other shows a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
You basically get 10 shows, and after that, you don't really see anything else. They kind of pick based on, if you're a big player, you're going to be showing, and if you're smaller and starting out, you're not going to be showing. So we'll see. I hope that happens. Other things I thought were cool is you can create kind of if I could create what you're going to see when I call you. They called it posters, so I can kind of set up what my image will be. I don't know if that's annoying. Maybe you'd have to kind of pick an image that works for all of your audiences. And, they didn't say you can have like one for mom and one for your friends, because those might be different, but you can pick that. I thought that was nice. FaceTime messages is going to be really cool because a lot of times we'll call people on that and then we have to then go text them and let them know that we're trying to reach out. So being able to leave that, and sometimes you're FaceTiming them because something's going on at that moment. Like we FaceTime people when our 1-year-old is walking. They might call back and he might be asleep. So we could FaceTime him walking and then they get that video and they're good to go, which would be kind of cool.
That is super cool.
And then the other one is I use this a lot. I have all my photos, not since the beginning of having an iPhone, but I think since 2007. No, not since 2007. That's when the iPhone started. In 2015, I guess. I have all my photos still on my phone. And it does a really good job of picking who's in the photos. And every once in a while, I'll go through and sort of say yes or no. Some people look alike. But then if I want to see pictures with me and my nephew and my niece, I can pick those 3 people and it'll, because I'm thinking about a moment when we were all together, it'll show me those photos. And that's really nice. It makes it easy to find stuff. And they now edit pets to that too. So you can sort of tag your pets and you can say like, oh, I want the picture of me with my cat that I remember, was me, my cat, and my kid or whatever, or whoever I remember for being that, or just all the pictures of my cat. Instead of just, you could previously search for cat and it would be any cat. And now you can search by the individual cat, which is really nice. So that was pretty cool.
Especially when you have a lot of photos.
Right. Yeah, I have thousands, tens of thousands on there. They're just in there. And so a lot of times you want to, they'll pull up stuff to show me daily, but sometimes I want to search for a specific thing and I don't remember what year it was or what month it was. And so this will help me to sort of do that search, which is great. So those are the sort of iOS stuff I'm pretty excited about. Was there anything else so I have some hardware things I'm pretty excited about too. Oh, actually, there's one more. I guess this is iOS. They didn't put it under that section, but with the Apple Watch, which I don't know, do you have an Apple Watch?
I do. I don't wear it as often as I should, just because with working remote, I feel like I don't wear it as often as I do when I go out and things like that. But
yeah, so I have one. I love it. I have it so that I can leave my phone behind and sort of focus on stuff. And they added a new thing called double tap. So if you kind of tap your fingers, it will do stuff, basically the main thing. So if someone's calling you,
I did see that. That's so crazy.
To answer it. And the thing I think I'll use it the most for is I use this as an alarm clock so I don't wake other people up when I'm trying to wake up. And so you can snooze with the double tap, which is really nice. So I'm excited about that.
Does it just vibrate?
I don't know. They said a lot of technical jargon as to how they do it, but somehow they know that you did that, and then it'll know that you did that through haptics and I don't know, all sorts of sensors and oxygen sensors and whatever. Who knows? They figured out that technology aspect of it, and then you do the main thing. Obviously, you can't do all the stuff with it, but that's pretty cool. And then I have a couple of hardware things too. Did you have any other software things on your end or hardware things?
Not really. Those were kind of the two that I talked about were kind of my 2 main ones.
Okay. So hardware, I'm always excited about the phone or the camera. That's the main reason why I upgrade my phone. I get the Pro because, again, photography is part of our business and it's important for me to have a good camera with me. I also just love photography. And for the first time, I'm actually thinking about getting the Pro Max, which I don't really want because it's a little bit bigger. I wish it was the size of the Pro and had the features of the Pro Max, but it has a new lens technology that I'd never heard about before called periscope lens. There's math behind how cameras work, and I had always heard that lenses have to be a certain length in order for them to work. So if you want something to focus really far away, it has to be a really big lens. Those are, as you see the guys on the sidelines at sporting events, the lenses are massive. The periscope lens, the idea is in there's a bunch of mirrors and things are bouncing around. So it creates that length without it being as long. So they have, an even longer telephoto lens on the iPhone. I think it's 120, I don't remember what it is, 5 times zoom maybe. And they were able to do that, and it's still that really, really small lens, which is super cool. So
they did talk about like the new camera a lot in that September event yesterday.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, and this is optical zoom, not digital zoom, because digital zoom is just basically cropping in on the photo, and you can do that on anything, and then the photo gets smaller. And then the camera got all the normal upgrades that they get. There's always, again, 25% faster and more megapixels, and there's it's better in low light and all that stuff. So that always comes, and that's why I like to upgrade as well. The other features for the camera that are really cool is it always is going to be taking in portrait mode if it recognizes someone that would require a portrait, so a person or a pet. You don't have to be in portrait mode. You can change your mind later, which is really, really awesome. And even more cool is focus and depth control. So it does something called rich depth mapping, is what they call it. So I think it uses the LiDAR. So it basically scans the background to see how far things are. And by doing that, you can change the focus. So if you're there and someone was 10 feet behind you, and I took the photo with you in focus, I could change that and put the focus to the person behind you. And then it would use the software to sort of blur out the front instead of the back. And that's amazing that you can make that change after the fact. It's not baked into the photo itself. So that was really cool. And then, the thing that's been coming for forever that I think is, will be hard to get adjusted to short term is USB-C for charging. This is because of a lawsuit from the European Union. And they lost that battle, so they had to do it in Europe. And then I think at that point they were like, I guess we'll do it everywhere. So lightning cable is gone, and we can use eventually, hopefully, I think Europe's thing with this is we're wasting all this. Everybody has 20 cables, and they should just have one. And so the cable that
agreed. Honestly, I totally agree.
Every phone and every computer and every iPad and everything will be USB-C, until the next thing. And that way, when you go to your friend's house that has a Samsung, you can still charge your phone there, which is really nice. So I'm excited about that too, just because after we buy all new stuff, because we're going to have to upgrade, then we'll only have one and it'll work for everything, which is awesome. So
yeah, I think that's an awesome idea. That's super cool.
Yeah. And that's been coming for a while, and they've been talking about it for forever. And I'm assuming Samsung's had that for 3 or 4 years. So, they're catching up there as well. But they really, they made money off of Lightning, which is why they didn't want to get rid of it, because it was their technology. And then if you put it in your charging dock, you had to pay Apple a little bit of money to use it. And now they're USB-C. I don't know, either someone else is getting money or it's open source. So they lose that revenue, but it's better for us, which is nice.
I was going to say, on the cool part about the camera, or the new updates with the camera, is I think that's going to be such an important thing for people who have businesses, because a lot of times you cannot afford a photographer a lot. And obviously having really good photos for one, social media, and to your website is super important. So seeing like the new features that are going to be with the camera, I think are going to be a game changer for a lot of businesses.
Yeah. I mean, every iteration is, again, a little bit better. And the piece of it that helps restaurants and businesses the most is the low light. So when they talk about that, they'll always mention it. You've been able to take pretty great photos outside on the patio if you knew, a little bit about what you were doing for years now, but you go into the bar area and it's really dark and it's really, really hard to get a photo that looks appealing. And so now, again, with all their machine learning, there's AI in there too. They're taking what they know about photos and they're adjusting stuff. This is all happening. This is all software stuff that's happening in the background. And yeah, they're getting great. So it is exciting that these photos are so much more usable. I mean, 10 years ago, if you took an iPhone photo of someone blowing out their birthday candles, it was almost useless because, the lights are off. But now they look awesome. Yep. They're moody and they're exciting and capture that moment, even if you didn't have your big camera with you. So I'm excited about that too. Okay, I think that might be it.
I think so too. That's all I had on my list.
Yeah, so that was our take on Apple and marketing and their events. Again, I think they're an awesome marketing company that happens to also be a tech company, and that's why I really like them. And I love watching these events for a number of different reasons. But if you're looking for sort of a what to do when unveiling a product, that you should watch these videos, because they, like Madison said, it keeps your attention. They bring in people.
Yeah, they're good at it.
They bring in, I don't know, between the two events, there must have been 2 or 3 dozen people that talked. They were all very well spoken. They all were, obviously they had practiced, and there was a lot of, fanfare that went behind it too, but they were quick to the point. They pointed out why this was done, how it's better, what it can do for you, for every different little segment that they had. And it gets you just excited about what's new, and makes you want to go spend $1,000 on a new phone, which is what their ultimate goal is. And they'll likely get a bunch of people to do that next week. Awesome. So thanks everybody for joining us. We've been on a pretty good weekly schedule. I don't know if we'll keep that, but that's our plan. So like, subscribe.
It's working right now.
Yep. Check us out on YouTube. And that's where we're really excited about this being a YouTube show as well. And in addition to the podcast, because you can see what we're doing, and we'll probably have some, as we're going through this, you'll be able to see some of the images from the event as well. And then if you've got any questions for us or anything, reach out on the website, skyline.com/FBY marketing, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, see you guys next week.
Bye.